All right, what is up, everybody? Going live again. I wanted to do this because you know what? I don't like editing. It takes forever, and I'm sick of doing it. And so I'm just going to keep going live. And I've got some stuff prepared tonight. I had a really great meeting earlier. We're going to dive into TPAs. I've got a new intro for you. Check this out. It is going to hopefully be something you think is fun and enjoyable to watch. I spent some time on it. Check it out. All right, so 41 Jake here. Thanks for watching. I wanted to talk about something that's super important. If you're just starting out in the 401k business, or you've been in it a long time, or you're just dabbling in the 401ks and it's something that you've made a part of your practice because it was a demand that your clients were asking for, this is going to be a good video for you. I'm going to keep it really quick and concise. We're talking today about third-party administrators. I just lost my light. Check that out. There we go. Third-party administrators. Okay, what is a third-party administrator? Well, there are a lot of different kinds of third-party administrators. They are the heart, the core of your 401k that is going to either make or break your plan. I've had 401k administrators that have honestly caused me the biggest nightmare, and I have some that have made my life amazing because they can do so much work to help you make sure the plan document is right and that the year-end stuff is all done correctly. It is critical. So if you're just starting out, the first thing you want to do is start to determine which TPAs or third-party administrators you're going to be utilizing. There are a couple different kinds. So let's make sure we're clear on who you should look out for and how to select a good one for your practice. And a lot of it depends on your niche. And we're going to have a different whole episode about that, picking your niche. But I want you to have this basis because the first person you should be knowing and talk to and reach out to when you have questions is your TPA. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about, and this is really critical, especially in this market environment that we have right now, is the CPA or the accounting firm TPA. They can be a really low cost option and typically not the best option for a very custom plan. If you're doing just a basic one of the safe harbor designs, it's really simple, they don't have a lot of growth, the company's just going to stay level, that could be a good option. And the reason the CPA firms will do TPA work is they're trying to fill their downtime. Well, 2020 is going to be a really unique situation for them, and here's why. If they've extended out taxes into July, now normally the 5500 is due at the end of July, so that whole time frame in the calendar where they have all this free time to do the 401k work is now going to be shifted around. So it's going to be tough because you're going to have people that are worried about payroll and worried about other things in their business, and the 401k administration is probably to the bottom of the list. And if there are issues and you're reaching out to your CPA firm, they're busy with other things and they're not going to be as responsive as if you have a specialist TPA firm. So I highly recommend you get with a dedicated TPA that's their core business. Now, some CPA firms have a separate division, and that's okay, but don't get someone that does taxes in the early part of the year, does in the summer all your 401k stuff, and then business stuff at the end of the year. Get someone that's dedicated to 401ks and knows what they're doing. Okay, so that's the first step. Know the difference. Now let's talk a little bit about local versus national. What's the difference? For me, I really enjoyed working with local TPAs, and here's why. If you need to bring them into a meeting and support you, that's going to be a critical part to help you look good and still be really involved. A lot of times, the toughest part about the relationship between a TPA and the client is the language barrier, right? TPAs speak 401k, your client doesn't. Your job is to interpret the things that they're asking, the things that they need to know, in a way that a normal HR, CFO, CEO, business owner can understand. This is not the time to shine by being so overcomplicated and almost confusing the client into creating some value. Don't do that. That is the worst possible scenario. You're going to cause yourself some real problems down the road because your client's going to leave you. You're not going to be able to build a strong practice if you overcomplicate what the TPA does. It is complicated. I 100% would. I value TPAs more than anything else in the 401k spectrum or hub or whatever you want to call it. I value a TPA the most. And probably because I work in the niche of medical groups. And so with medical groups, we have a lot of different scenarios. And we'll get into cash balance later, but that's another big topic. So having a local TPA can be critical. And when you do that, one thing that I like to recommend is make sure they have an in-house actuary. Okay, so an in-house actuary is someone that can help you put together a proposal and do illustrations for a cash balance or new comparability or safe harbor in a very clean and concise way. If your TPA is outsourcing this service to another third-party actuary, you're going through the client's going through you to the TPA to that actuary. It is a nightmare. Don't do it. It's just not worth it. Find a TPA that is either local and has an actuary, and if you can't find that, find a national firm. And there's a lot of good ones. Most of them are getting purchased. There's a lot of consolidation right now. Census is on a tear, buying a lot of TPAs. One of my favorites was just acquired, and it's not a bad thing. They're keeping them running separately, and so they still have their highest service level, but just be aware that there's some acquisitions going on. So find a good TPA and really lean on them. One other thing, as you're trying to determine the best TPA, either local or national, also consider their approach to your client. What I mean by that is some TPAs like to kind of go around you and leave you as the advisor on the outside and just say, hey, you deal with the investment piece. I've got this. They're my client. You don't want to partner with a TPA like that. You want a TPA that values your relationship with the client, and you need to be the closest person to the client. I've said this a million times, and I'll continue to say it. The closest person to the client will continue to win their business. It is your job to know the client better than anybody else, better than the TPA, better than the record keeper, better than anybody involved. Because as their business changes, this is your opportunity to go to the TPA and say, this is the scenario that they have. You have to interpret back what their real life scenario is back to the TPA so that they can come to an agreement of what is the best scenario in that situation of whatever their business is doing, and make sure the plan document fits that. That's the beauty of the 401k. It's very custom, and the TPA is where that customization comes in. So make sure that you work closely with your TPA and understand all the things that they're going to do. Okay. Last thing I want to talk about before I kind of dive into a couple of things is what is going on with revenue sharing. This is the ugliest part of the industry. And when you're selecting a TPA, you need to fully understand what revenue they're receiving from record keepers. This varies widely. Okay. When you talk about, for example, Vanguard or Census, they don't pay anything to the TPA. When you work with some of the other big brands, Voya, Empower, Mass Mutual, Hancock, Principal, they all have some sort of way to pay back the TPA. Do not work with TPAs that don't pass that revenue sharing through to your client and offset their fee of what they're going to bill the client. There's absolutely no reason that revenue should exist, but it does. So you need to understand that game and work it into the favor of your client's best interest. That's your job as a fiduciary. If they are pocketing that money, it can be significant, and your client has no idea. They would never know. That's where you have to be on your client's team. And I definitely value TPAs, and they understand this process, and they'll work with you on that. Just know that is going on. I mean, that's a game, honestly, that took me a few months, almost a year probably, to really dial in and understand, because different TPAs and different record keepers have different relationships. So determine which record keepers you're going to work with, and we'll dive into record keepers later, but determine that and know which TPAs you're working with, and know that there's going to be some revenue sharing. One of the biggest benefits of a national firm is they're going to have a pretty big relationship with a TPA, with a record keeper, and that relationship could benefit your client significantly. We went through a change. Give you a real life example. We went through a change. One of our groups had a really bad experience. The TPA had been acquired. Service levels dropped a ton. They couldn't get any answers. It put our office in a real tough situation, because we had a scenario where we were getting blamed for the TPA's problems. That was the last thing we needed. We didn't want to lose business because this TPA service levels dropped. So what we ended up doing was we needed to make a change to the TPA. So we went through the bidding process. We did a full RFP. We got all the different questions answered, created that RFP for them. Didn't necessarily bring in everybody from all the TPAs that were national, but we went through all the different service levels and the benefits they provided, make sure that they had an actuary in house because they had a cash balance plan. And when we finally determined which one we wanted to go with, we made the decision to switch the record keeper. When we didn't really have a problem with the record keeper, we were fine with where we were at, but unfortunately, the cost of moving that TPA was pretty significant. And one of the ways that we could offset that cost a ton, and I'm talking like the whole, like almost 2 years worth of fees, probably more than that, was to switch record keepers to a close partner of that TPA. And we ended up, they don't have any invoices from that TPA, which is awesome. It's amazing. So it kind of can get confusing. Sometimes that can make a bad feeling come across to your client, and they'll think that, hey, you're trying to trick me with something. So be trying to figure out how to tell that story in a good way that helps them understand that this is kind of the way that record keepers market to you. They work with TPAs that obviously are going to have some business come their way, and the more that they can spend to get more business, they can spend it giving it to you through the TPA, or they could put their name on another football stadium, whatever, right? So know how to tell that story and help them understand the benefits of the two together. Now let's talk about when you wouldn't need a TPA, okay? Because not every situation really validates having an unbundled, where you have a TPA and record keeper scenario. Probably the one place I would look at where we're seeing some real technology come up in the 401k space is your small startup plans, your really basic startup plans. Tiny company, doesn't expect to grow a lot, just they set up as a safe harbor plan. There's not a lot of benefit to going unbundled, except if you don't think through where they're going to go next steps. So how I like to market to our clients, because we're in that medical niche, medical, dental, high income earner professionals, we have flipped a switch. Instead of talking about which record keepers or which TPAs and try to like sell a product, we have gone to the step of 3 levels of how much they want to contribute as a business owner. So we look at the partners and we talk to them and say, all right, level 1, you're going to max out your safe harbor limit, 19.5. All right, let's go level 2. We're going to do new comparability. We're going to go to 57,000. If we're going to go to that level, we need to go unbundled. There's some scenarios, if you're never going to go above that, that's going to be okay, but only if they're really, really price sensitive. I think new comp really can get complicated fast, and having a really high quality TPA help you with that is going to save your life. It can save you a lot of headaches. And then we talk about level 3, which is the cash balance plan. That's a whole nother topic, whole nother episode. Cash balance plans are really, really hot. Now that the market's taken a hit, they're going to be, we'll see how it goes. It's going to be really beneficial for your high income earners. All right. So you talk about 19.5, 57,000, and then you go all the way up to 300,000 plus, depending on their ages. So in doing that, what we're doing is we're talking about the benefit to the client. So when you're talking about the benefit of the client, you in your back of your mind know kind of where you think is going to be a good fit. They're hiring you as the expert. They're not necessarily wanting you to teach them everything, but you got to keep them kind of in the loop somewhat, so they know who they're paying and what job they're supposed to do. The last thing you need is to present yourself as all of the answers and not be able to come through for them. So partner with the right people. Understanding that TPA is the first and most critical part. I would highly recommend trusting the advice and help of your TPA salesperson, wholesaler, whatever you want to call them, over the record keeper. You're going to hear a lot more from record keepers, and you're going to hear a lot more from DCIO or investment, defined contribution investment only mutual fund companies, right? They're going to have a lot more money to spend to help you, but they're really, really focused more on their product, whereas the TPA is not so much product driven. And when you do a cost analysis across the spectrum, you're not going to see a very big difference when you're talking about local and regional and national firms. Sometimes if you have a bundle platform and there's other stuff, the fees can get up there. But they're pretty close, but you would be blown away at the difference of service level that a couple $100 would make. I am so glad we have the partners we have. In Utah and Idaho, we've narrowed it down to a couple that we like locally and a couple we like nationally. So we go into a situation, we know who we're gonna bring in, and when we take over a plan, this is kind of last tip of the day. When you win a new plan that's already existing, you want to take broker of record. You don't want to come in there and blow it up. They could have the worst situation, the worst TPA, the worst record keeper, the fees suck. Everything needs to go, but you got to take it a step at a time. So take it a step at a time, get the TPA in place. That is really the core of the plan. You need to have them be the one that gets things fixed first, because from there on out, you can fix things. It's kind of a lot easier that way once that core piece is in place. So if the record keeper down the road screws up or it just gets quiet or whatever happens, you have that core fundamental TPA that knows your client and works closely with you and trusts you and your relationship with that client, and you're really kind of working together. Okay, and as I've been talking, the reason this was on my mind is I was on a call today, and if you're out in California or you're anywhere actually in the country, the Retireholics, the guys over there, they have done a great job with putting out lots of content. So if you want more content that's very TPA focused and industry focused in a fun format, those guys are really, really good and really helpful. And they'll tell you a lot. But that's been on my mind as I've gone through a bunch of changes recently. And now with this market correction from the coronavirus, and this is a really good time for you to dive in and start to do due diligence on all those different partners you're using. So love to hear your comments and your thoughts. Who are the TPAs you love? What are your nightmare experiences? I know you've probably had some of those, hopefully not too many. Tell me it all. I want to hear about it. Hopefully this has been useful. Always, I will do my best to respond to your comments. If I don't, that's my bad, and I will definitely get to it. But if you want to reach out to me even quicker, shoot me an email, jake@41jake.com. Or you can text me, 385-204-401k or 415. I grabbed that one off Google. But I will love to help you. I have been through this so many times, and it's been 15 years of my career trying to figure out this game. And I think I'm at a place that I've got enough under my belt that I think I can help you be more successful, because you know what? There are literally millions of Americans stuck in garbage 401ks. And the only way we're going to make a difference is if we continue to improve ourselves as a 401k advisor industry. And I am pumped to do that. All right. I hope that's helpful. Hope everyone's safe and healthy. And we will hope to hear from you soon. And take care.